Hey guys, Alton here. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel and to our fourth episode for our Ethical Hacking for Beginners series. So in our last episode, I showed you how to use Nmap and to do some scans on your network to identify the systems, the ports, the operating systems, all that stuff. And now we're going to segue to vulnerability scanning. So we're going to take that information, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Nessus. Nessus is a very popular vulnerability scanner, so I'm going to show you how to install it on your Kali machine and how to perform some basic vulnerability scans on the systems that we did our scans with Nmap for. So let's go ahead, let's get started, let's jump over to my screen, and let's get started installing and working with Nessus. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's get started. So make sure that your Kali machine is up and running, and we're going to work with Nessus in this video, but we need to install it first. So it doesn't come pre-packaged with Kali. So we're going to walk through the process of getting it installed. So I have the steps here in Cherry Tree. Let's go ahead and let's bring that over. Let's close out ZenMap. Don't need that from the last video. And let's open up Firefox and let's do a search. And I'm simply just doing a Google search for Nessus download. And what we need to do is go to their download page. And then on their download page, I'll go ahead and make it full screen. The version that we're installing on Kali is a Debian version. I installed the 64-bit version, so I'm going to be installing the 64-bit. If you have the 32-bit version, then download that. If you have the 64 like me, then download that. And so here we go. So I did a search for Debian, and we're going to download Debian AMD 64. So I'm going to right click. I'm actually just going to click on it to download, accept their license agreement, and go ahead and save the file and let it download to your downloads folder or wherever it downloaded. Mine went to my downloads folder. So we have the Debian file ready to go. Now we're going to open up Terminal, and in Terminal, let me increase the font size a little bit. So we're going to depackage it. So let's go ahead. We'll move to our downloads folder. We'll do an ls. Here's the file that we want to depackage. So depackage, and we'll do a -i to install, and then Nessus, hit enter, let it install. Once it installs, it says, you'll notice right here, it says that you can start the service and then you can go to the website. Well, it's essentially, it's running on the system and it runs on port 8834. So we're going to start the service, and the command is going to be service nessusd. That's the name of the service, and we're going to start it. So we're going to go ahead and start the service. And we can actually do a status command as well to make sure that it's running, and it's running. So now what we can do is we can go back to our browser. We can either go directly from the link right here. We can say open link, or you can just go into here. What you're going to notice is that this is a self-signed certificate, so we have to go to advanced because we get a warning. So go to advanced, scroll down, and accept the risk and continue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bookmark this, and I'm just going to put it on the toolbar. So you have to start the service every time that you start up Kali, just remember that. Now you don't have an account with Nessus yet, so you're going to have to walk through the process. I already have a code with an account that I set up, but I'm going to walk you through the process. We are going to be installing the free edition, which is Nessus Essentials. So we're going to click continue. You need to get an activation code, input your activation code. If you already have one from a previous install, you can go ahead and skip it, and then you can register it. So I'm actually going to pause the video, pull in my registration code from my Gmail account, and then let it continue. But for you, if you don't have one, sign up. They'll email you an activation code, and then you input it into here, and I'll be back in 1 second. Alright, so once you've registered your activation code, it's going to ask you for a username and password. So go ahead and put one in. I'm just going to stick with root, and we'll see if it allows me to use Tor or not. It may or may not allow me to use Tor. Let's see if it does with Nessus, if it requires certain type or certain strength of passwords, and it looks like it does allow me. So I'm just sticking with the root and the Tor. Now it's going to update, and this is going to take some time. So could take anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. So again, I'm going to pause the video, let this run. Just going to allow it to upload itself. So when it's downloading the plugins and updating its database and everything else, remember this is a vulnerability scanner. So for the vulnerability scanner to work, what it does is it pulls down definitions just like antivirus software. How does antivirus software detect malware? How do they detect viruses? Well, they have signature files, and it's the same thing with this. So we're going to let this run. What you can do while you're letting this run, just to prepare for later, is make sure that your other machines are up and running. So make sure that your OWASP machine is up and running. Make sure that your metasploit machine is up and running. So just make sure that these machines are up and running, and that way once we get to the point where we're actually going to scan these machines, they're already up and loaded and you have to wait. So again, I'm going to pause the video. I'll be back when this is done. Alright, so for the sake of time, I went ahead and I loaded up another one of my Kali virtual machines that already have Nessus installed in. And one thing I do want to mention, while this one is still initializing, every time that you start up your system, you have to start up the Nessus service, and it's going to update every single time, and that takes about probably around 5 minutes. So I want to log into this system, and I want to show you the interface. You'll notice that this system is on the IP address .8, so I moved it over to the same NAT network as this system. You may run into some issues from time to time with Nessus as well. When you try to run scans, if you get an error, typically what you have to do is go into your history and clear out your cache. So let's go ahead and let's just close this window. We don't need this. So if you start going into here and you run into some sort of an issue, typically what fixes it is you go into your history, and the system does seem like it's running a little on the slow side, and clear your recent history, and that'll solve your issues. And I'm actually going to do that right now, just so we don't run into some issues with this system while this one is still configuring and setting itself up for the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. I wanted to show you that right now because it's a common issue that I've noticed myself with Nessus. So let's go into here. Let's make this full screen. With Nessus, what you're going to notice is that you're in My Scans. In here, you can create a new scan. You can import a scan. You can click on all of your previous scans if you had them. On this system, I thought that I had some previous scans, but I guess I didn't save them, or I moved this back to an older snapshot. And then if you wanted to create a custom scan, what you do is you go to Policies. And what you can do is you can create a new policy, and within here, we can click what we want to include. You're going to notice that there are certain things. I'll get my highlighting tool ready. Anywhere where you see this upgrade, that means you can't use these options because those are for the paid versions of Nessus. But for our purposes of learning how to use it, it's more than perfectly fine to have the Community Edition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in Advanced Scan. And what we can do, and let me go back and check this machine again, still working. While the advanced scan loads, what you're going to notice is that we're going to see some options to do things. And I'm going to double check and see. So it shows that I'm using around 90% of my 32 gigs of RAM, but I should have enough. My CPU utilization is low, so we should be okay. So with the advanced scan, it's going to give you options in here to choose essentially a policy to put together for future scans. So I'm going to say My Policy, and we're just going to say Test for the description. If we click the down arrows for these, it's going to give us options, so we can choose a variety of different options, and you can quickly go down a very deep rabbit hole with all this. So we're just going to stick with the basics here. By default, you're going to notice that it's going to ping with ARP and TCP and ICMP, and UDP is off. We can click on port scanning, and we can stick with the default range. We can choose our range within here as well. We can type in a range. We'll just leave it at default. For service discovery, we can go within here as well. If we need credentials to log into a system, we can add those credentials. And then there are what are called plugins. And by default, these are all enabled. But what you're going to notice is that, for example, down here at the bottom, we have ones that are associated specifically with Windows. We have ones for Ubuntu, SUSE, Solaris. So depending upon the system that you're going to be scanning, let's say it's a Mac OS X, you can pick and choose what you want to enable and disable. And I can say disable all and then go through and just enable a subset of them, or I can enable all of them. It's really up to you what you want to do. But let's go back to here. I'm just going to again leave that at the default. In the assessment, it gives you options as well. And then for the report, it gives you options, and then there's an advanced area that we're not going to go into. So you can use this. It's perfectly fine to set these up, but I'm not going to save this one. I'm going to go back to my scans. And let's check our other machine. And our other machine is booted up. So what I'm going to do is we're going to stick to this machine. So now that this one is booted up, so I am going to go ahead and just shut this one down. And now we're going to go back to here, and what I want to do with this machine is I want to run a basic scan. So I want to show you, I kind of walked you through the policies area. What I want to show you is how to run a basic vulnerability scan. Again, this is just an introduction to Nessus, installing it, and getting you familiarized with it. In your spare time, definitely play around with this on your own. So we're going to do a new scan, and we're just going to do a basic scan. We're going to do a basic network scan. We could do multiple different types of scans. We have options down here. We can choose whichever one we want to do. We could do an advanced one and pick and choose, but we're going to stick with a basic network scan. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call it my first Nessus scan. And what we're going to do for the targets is we're going to choose the targets that we want to scan. So 192.168.0.4, and you'll notice that there's multiple different ways. You could do a dash. You could say 192.168.0.6, or you could add them to different lines, or you could do the whole subnet. So we're going to stick with this, and we're just going to tell it to launch the scan. And what you're going to notice is now, under this area for my scans, you're going to notice that you see this and it shows you that it's running. Now the great thing about this is we can actually click in here and start viewing it while the scan is running. You can pause it, you can stop it. We're going to let it run. We're going to click into here, and we can start actually looking at the vulnerabilities while this is running. So here's our three hosts, the .4, .5, and .6, and red means it's a critical vulnerability. The dark orange is a high. The light orange is a medium. The green is a low, and the blue is just informational. So what we can do is I'm going to let this run. I'm going to pause the video, let this run for a couple more minutes, and then I'll resume, and we'll take a look. We'll click into here a bit further. Alright, so I've let Nessus run for a few more minutes, and it shows us that the scan is 100% complete on our .5 system, and we're 11% complete on the .6 and 4% on the .4. So I don't remember off the top of my head which one is the .5, so let's actually pull in our cherry notes and let's see which one this is. So the .5 is our XP machine. Okay, so now we know that. And the .6 is close to 99% complete. Let's take a look at this. So we can either click on the vulnerabilities tab, and it's going to give us a list of the vulnerabilities, and we can order it by severity. If we go back to here, let's say we just want to look at this system, we'll just click into here, and it gives us a breakdown of these vulnerabilities. So mixed in here typically is going to have a bunch of critical combined with high and medium and low. And what you're going to notice is that there's a variety of vulnerabilities. Let's say a very common one is the 08-67, and if we click into here, this gives us some more details about it. So this MS08067, this is the remote Windows host is affected by a remote code execution vulnerability in the server service due to improper handling of RPC requests. So what we can do with this is we can actually take this vulnerability, we can copy this, we can also go to their website and browse it. We can scroll down here on the right and it shows us how it can be exploited. And this is refreshing because this is still running, but if we scroll down here, it shows us that we can exploit it with Metasploit, Canvas, or Core Impact. And with Metasploit, it gives us the exact exploit. So we can actually search for that in Metasploit because this is refreshing. We'll go over to here, and this, again, this gives us more detail here on Microsoft's page, but we can also use ExploitDB, which is, this link should be here on your machine. You can search for this exploit here in ExploitDB, and let's go ahead and accept the credentials, and you're going to notice that this is going to be located in here, and it shows multiple different potential exploits, and we'll just click on one of them to find out about it, and we'll specifically do the Metasploit one, because that's one we'll actually be utilizing later. And you'll notice here is the exploit. You can download the exploit if you wanted to run it manually, and here is the code itself for that exploit. What we're going to do, because we're going to utilize the Metasploit framework, is we won't run this manually. We'll actually run this or another vulnerability in Metasploit. And if we wanted to go a bit further, we could actually just paste this into Google, and we could read about this. Rapid7 is also another good source. So it gives us the detail of it. Again, I'm not going to spend time reading through this, but I just wanted to show you. And just by utilizing Google, utilizing websites like Rapid7 and ExploitDB, where there is a link in here, again, you can learn a lot about these exploits, and we'll go a bit further in regards to these exploits, exploiting these vulnerabilities. But let's go back to the main page here within Nessus, and I actually closed out Nessus and went back to the download page. So let's go back to the scan, and let's look at how far along we are. So we are almost done. So the .6 machine, we'll take a look, that's 100% done. You're going to notice that there is nothing in here. If we click into the mixed ones, we're not even seeing anything where it is a critical vulnerability. The highest one is SSL with a criticality of high, and no vulnerability information down here. But again, we'll take a look at that a bit further once we get into exploitation. Let's go back to the host. We're still 99% for the .4 machine, but we can click into here. You're going to notice there's a lot of critical vulnerabilities. So let's take a look at the systems. We're not going to do any exploiting, so I am going to turn off the Windows machine because we already took a look at that. The scan is completed on that one, but I don't remember which one is the .5 and which one is the other IP address. So let me get into these real quick and let's take a look. So the .6 is going to be our OWASP machine. Okay, so the .4 is going to be Metasploitable too, and that makes sense why there's so many exploits here. So we can identify these exploits, we can read about them, we can see how they're exploitable, and we can then take this information and we can move along to the next step, which is going to be the exploitation phase. Now let's go back to all the hosts, and you're going to notice that this is still running. It's still at 99%, so we're not 100% done. But once this is done, we actually can export these into reports as well. Essentially an HTML or a PDF report. That way you have a report, you have a breakdown of all the vulnerabilities. It's one of the nice features of Metasploit, and we are 100% done now. What you're going to notice is that if we click on report, We can do a PDF, we can do HTML, we can do a CSV file. We'll just do a PDF. And you're going to notice there's an executive summary or custom. We'll just leave it at the default. We'll generate the report. And we'll go ahead and we'll open it. Make it full screen, and you're going to notice over here, so you have an executive summary and you have a breakdown by each system. So our 4, our .5, and our .6 system. And if we click on any of these, we'll go to the .4. If we click on these, it'll link us to the details of that vulnerability on Nessus's website. So we can take this rather than having, and let me just go ahead and minimize this, and rather than having to open up Nessus every time, waiting for the service to start, waiting for it to update, we can just utilize this report as a way to quickly identify and see all of those different vulnerabilities. So anyways, what I want to do real quick is, let me close the terminal. Let me go back to here. Let me go to here, and let's make sure that we did save that report to the location where we want it to be. And it looks like it's not allowing me to get over there. Downloads manager is already open. Let's close this, and it looks like it didn't put it in a location that I want to see. So there we go. Got that to open finally. So let's go ahead and let's put this on our desktop. That way we have our scan on our desktop with everything else. So you could put it in downloads, my documents, or I guess it's just documents in Linux, wherever you want to put it. But that way, and let me go ahead and close out of here. Don't need to be in Nessus anymore. If you want to put it in a specific location, feel free to do so. But I just put mine on the desktop with the mmap scans. So now we have the details of our mmap scan. So in this video, just a quick summary. We went over what Nessus is, we installed it, we got it up and running. I went through the basics with you, and we did a scan on our 3 devices. So our 3 different target systems: Metasploit 2, OWASP, Broken Web Apps, and Windows XP SP2. So definitely play around with Nessus on your own. If you want to play around with the different scans, definitely do so. You can customize them, you can do whatever you want. What I plan on doing in the next video is progressing along in this stage, from one stage to the next stage, or we just call them steps in the pen testing process. And we're going to look to exploit the Windows XP machine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys at the next video. Take care. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you guys at future videos. Take care.